Hello, everybody. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. My name is Martin Loffers. I'm the Chief Trend Watcher of Supply Chain Media. You might also know me as the Editor-in-Chief of Supply Chain Movement, the European Quarterly. But also I'm the architect of the SCM IT Subway Map, where you find all the supply chain software solutions in Europe. You can imagine. Next thing we're going to do this coming 60 minutes, we're going to talk about supply chain resilience and what kind of solution will help you with it. So with me, I have two experts in this matter. So to the left, that's me. You probably know my by now. And in the middle, I have Emilia Jevakhoff, CEO of Windall. Hi, Emilia.
Hi, Martin.
And next, we have Safa Chhab from KPMG. Hello, Safa.
Hi, Martin.
So in the next hour, we're going to discuss supply chain resilience with these both supply chain experts. A few things to mention. This webinar will be recorded. The PDF will be made available afterwards. So don't ask me about that. That's taken care of. And everybody's on mute, but you can ask questions to us. And if these questions are in line of what we are discussing, then I will ask these questions right away. We also have a Q&A at the end. So then we have an opportunity to address the questions, and I'll have some questions to both of them, to Emilia and Safa. But if you still have questions, or do you want to talk to one of us, there's an opportunity afterwards to talk in the lounge. So afterwards, from 5 o'clock until 5:30, possibly, you can sit down with Emilia, Safa, and myself, and you can ask me or the ladies directly some questions. We were sitting at table 1, so you can have an extension of this meeting afterwards in the lounge. But please do ask questions along the line. So you see a few functionalities buttons in AirMeet, the environment we're in right now. So you can have the option to ask questions in a chat. But also there's a functionality of Q&A, so chat can everybody see and answer, and in the Q&A area you can ask questions to me and I will pick it up and I will ask the questions if it's in line with what we're discussing. And also, if there are questions, you can even vote on this question, so please vote on the questions if you want this question from a third person to be answered. All right, but first, Emilia, can you talk and explain a bit more about Windall?
Yes, with pleasure. So Windall is a collaborative platform which aims at simplifying, structuring, and securing supply chain flows. To go into a few figures, the company was founded in 2015. So it was founded by sourcing and supply chain professionals, and since day one, we are working hand in hand with supply chain professionals to develop the solutions in order to address issues related to productivity, collaboration, and end-to-end visibility from an operational perspective. So today, the platform is used by more than 3,500 professionals on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
We are developing our activity quite well with important growth rates. We started the company with a focus on the fashion industry in 2015, and now we are clearly tackling this supply chain visibility issues for several industries. So we are working with fashion brands, of course, but also different companies in the consumers product fields, and also different clients in construction and engineering or transport industry. And we've been selected by the SAP IO program among the most innovative startup in the procurement and supply chain fields in 2021, and also received the prize of innovative supply chain startup with supply chain movement in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was almost saying you forgot something. So you're the winner of our European Supply Chain Startup Contest last year. So
Yes,
that's
yes, yes.
you should put the logo of this award into the slide. Anyway,
Clearly.
um, yes, okay, fine for now. I think Safa, can you explain a bit more about KPMG? Probably well known, but you can explain more about KPMG in supply chain environment.
Yeah, of course. So KPMG is a firm that specializes in consulting, audit, and accounting. We have teams located on the 5 continents, so we have sectorial experts that knows and understand the specificity of each country. And regarding supply chain and operation, we can address strategic, tactic, or operational topics. So, for example, we can help a client assess a sale and operation plan, or implement a specific organization in purchasing, in supply chain, or also in production. And on a more operational way, we go on the fields or on the warehouses and help our clients to be more productive. In terms of sectors, we cover as a big company all the main sectors. From my side, I'm in the French team in Paris. I'm specialized in fashion industry and also in the consumer good and retail industry.
All right. And as I know KPMG quite well, we're working close with KPMG for the top 28 of Supply Chain Executive Europe. So we have a kind of ranking we do together with KPMG. So there's a lot of data science happening right now in your consultancy firm, isn't it?
Of course, because we are in an environment that is moving, and I think our role as a consulting firm is also to give more visibility to our customers, and this is why we make a lot of surveys and analyze how the tendency is going on a specific subject. For example, on the impact of this crisis on the finance or on the supply chain, and we try also to synthesize all the information that are in our hand to our client for our client to make decisions.
Okay. Before we move into the supply chain resilience topic, I was wondering. So, what is your relationship with Windall, Safa?
So Windall, we met recently because we have common topics to deal and common clients also. So it's very interesting for us to see how we can help our clients from our side by advising them, and from Windall side by giving the most suited solution for their supply chain topics.
All right. Now moving into the topic of supply chain resilience. Maybe Safa first. Can you explain what's happening in our world? Why do we need supply chain resilience?
So I'm not telling anything new when I say that the events of last few years have shaken up companies, and they also had a strong impact on the supply chain. For instance, in France, 86% of the companies claim to have encountered difficulties either in their production tools or in their supply chain. So this instability has led to various disruptions of supply due to the demand variation and to logistics issue. For example, global supply delays have been increased by 30% in the last 6 months, with a specific impact on the US and also in Europe. This is because mainly the suppliers are not based in the same geographical zone as European and US companies. But what has also changed recently is the costs of the logistics and supply chain that have been strongly impacted. This is due to the increase of the oil price. For example, it has become 30% higher in this year than last year. And it is also due to the human resources shortages, especially in logistics and transportation in Europe.
Yeah. And you see a lot of bullwhips in the last 2 years, starting out with lockdowns and factories closing down, first in China, later in Europe, and then opening up, and also bullwhips, and now still, a lot of ships in the port of Shanghai waiting to be unloaded. So we're still not there yet.
No, we're still not there, and the key message here is that we have a lot of crises that have came, successive crises of COVID, the recent geopolitical issues, the climate factor also that have placed us in a very changing environment. And the key message is to keep in mind that we are currently on an unstable environment and that we might have to deal with future other crises. So the information that we have to look for is how to be more resilient even if new crises occur.
So basically, how do you do that, Safa?
That is the whole topic of today.
$1 billion question.
That's a very good question. For me, and I think Emilia will join me in to say that we think that operational resilience is a very powerful weapon to face tomorrow's crisis in a more confident way. But in order to do that, we have a lot of levers that we will go into during this presentation.
Yeah, maybe you have both quite some experience in the fashion industry and the consumer goods industry. Maybe we can focus there and have more of a discussion in that area, how to create a resilient in this kind of industry.
Mm-hmm. So science behind supply chain is composed of various parameters and complexity. There's an important number of actors, as you might know, and also there's a lot of external and internal factors that make this complexity even more complex.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, in the most complicated fashion consumer good industry, you can have up to 300 suppliers and to 50 manufacturing sites that has to work together day to day in order to deliver the right product for the right customer or even the final customer in the right time. So this multiplication of actor is also complexified by the geographical areas where they are. It demands for a supply chain manager more time to work with a supplier that is located in Asia than with the one that is located in Europe because of the transportation and the lead time that is quite longer.
Mm-hmm.
So the typical supply chain has to stay as efficient as usual, even when we have unpredicted event or regulatory constraints that occurs. And to do so, each actor has to understand the impact that they have on each other, and they also have to understand how to collaborate together through various systems and processes.
If you look at this example in the fashion industry, I know, for example, Zara, Inditex, they have mainly their manufacturing in Morocco, Portugal, and Spain, whereas H&M has a lot of manufacturing mainly in Bangladesh done, and Bestseller has a mix of it. So even in the fashion industry, and that's the fast fashion and the high fashion, you see differently. You see some different kind of setups already. Can you mention something about that, Safa?
Yeah, of course. As you said, when you have the fast fashion industries, they tend to manufacture in countries when the cost of manufacturing is lower.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why they go to Asia or also to the north of Africa, where there's a lot of expertise in the textile industry.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come closer to the luxury brands, the ready-to-wear, for example, they have almost all their supplier in France and in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
The manufacturer in France and Italy, and the supplier also, like 80% of them are based in Europe.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
sorry.
Go on. Yeah, go on.
So they have the capacity to control more easily their supplier, but they still need a lot of information to share with them, and they have to share it in the right time to be able to be more efficient, actually.
And another thing is you have to order sometimes a year in advance when you have your clothing being manufactured in Bangladesh, for example. So the lead times of these kind of orders are quite long.
The lead times are quite long, and the fashion industry works with collection. So you have, thanks to the trend that occurs, you have collections that are long or short, depending on the fashion or on the fashion industry. For example, when you are in a fast fashion one, the collection can be longer, but the product to the point of sale stay less time.
Yeah.
And in the luxury brands, you have generally between 6 to 8 collections a year, and those collections have their specific timings. But it's a very short one, so the production and the supplying lead time is quite short also.
Yeah, and I see with Zara, they are able to have a new collection in the stores within 2 months. So that's quite quickly because they are producing in Morocco, close by the European market. They are able to respond more quickly than H&M, for example.
Yeah, completely.
Emilia, if you look at this graph, with in this case the fashion consumer industry, how does it relate to the IT system and the processes?
Yeah, so it's very interesting to understand how most of the organization are organized in terms of IT and process. And what we can see is that a large majority of company has IT system which are helping to manage different operations when we are talking about supply chain process. Basically, almost everyone has an ERP running all the products and purchase order, suppliers, references, and so on. Warehouse management system, which is connected to the ERP in order to manage all the stocks and inventory management, and POS systems when it comes to the sales. And what we can see is that in really most cases, there is almost nothing to manage all the daily information shared with the factory, the freight forwarders, the quality service providers, the different teams, and even internally between the sales department, the finance department, and the logistics department that needs to have visibility on what's happening on the inbound flows. Everything, is is supported by Excel spreadsheets, a ton of emails, and so on. And so it's not difficult to understand that there is a problem with that kind of information, and you can't hope to have a resilient organization if the processes from one end to the other are relying on fragmented process, because you have siloed data. You have, of course, very quickly issues related to your data quality, and no one will be able to anticipate and react efficiently to any issue or updates in its supply chain operations when you are relying on such an IT and process organization. So all our point is really go back to basics, and you need to have an adequate organization in terms of IT and business process to be resilient and address efficiently the business context.
I have an interesting question from the audience relating to all this. Gap Old Navy just reported 162 million loss as a result of changing to an inventory push model and having too much stock of the wrong products. So, question: do you see changes in the supply chain planning techniques and tools necessary to improve resilience?
It is part of the topic. Clearly, our focus today it is. We cannot say that planning improvements will not help to be more resilient. But our point is always you can implement super powerful algorithm in terms of planning your production and your supply chain. If you are not able to adjust and react in a very pragmatic way on the operational ground, you will be super limited, because you need this operational agility to react, because we were talking about lead times. If you have a supply chain which is of several weeks or several months, even if you are super powerful in terms of planning, you will never be able to plan everything. And I mean, the issue is that when you're placing a purchase order, in most cases, the purchase order is not executed as it was planned in terms of dates, costs, and quantities delivered.
No. And then one thing, I've read about Gap Old Navy. The question is also, why was it that they were unable to sell their stocks or their fashion? I know a Dutch fashion brand being manufactured in China, and the lead time by transportation by train to Europe was so long they almost missed their dates to supply the boutiques in Europe. So they it was almost that they missed out a whole season, and then you have your stocks. So the question would also be with Gap Old Navy, what was the reason behind it? Was it they ordered wrong stuff, or was the lead time too long? Did they miss their deadlines for the store? So there you have to dig deeper to get the answers about why this inventory was not able to be sold. Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, it's a complex question, and so yeah, maybe there is no one unique reason, and it's a combination of different factors, but yeah, you need to be uh, as agile as possible on every dimension of the business planning and execution.
Yeah, and if you
Yeah,
yes, sorry, Safa.
yeah. If I can add just a comment about that, for me the supply planning is like the guidelines that you have to keep in mind, but you have to be able to challenge your initial planning by doing scenarios in order, as Emilia said, to be more agile. And to do that, you have to rely on the specific data that are right and that are the closest to your operational reality. And this is why an Excel file and an email is not enough to do your supply planning.
Oh, and if you look at this graph, if with all these emails, this Excel in this phone, it's quite cumbersome and a lot of manual stuff, and it always, the lead times getting longer and longer, and the communication is getting longer. You get a communication bullwhip, so that's not helping your supply chain.
It's not
And
helping. Sorry.
no, go on, go.
It's not helping, and also when system and processes fails, it's often the teams that compensate with additional workload, with disorganization. So it's not even good for your own teams to have so many Excel files to work on.
No.
And
Yeah.
just Martin, to add an element regarding this relationship between planning challenges and execution challenges is a lot of companies are lacking clear data to build efficient planning softwares or algorithm, and so it is you need to address both topics at the same time, and it's wrong to consider that there is one which is more priority when we are talking about efficient and resilient supply chain.
Yeah, and as it's stated here, 85% of companies are thinking of supply chain organizations as a black box. So with the Gap Old Navy, you have to dig deeper and you have to get into the black box, to see what is the cause of all this. But Emilia, can you explain a bit more about the approach of Windall, how to address this?
Yes, with pleasure. The objective is clearly to address this topic and to be able to bridge this gap between ERP and warehouse management system, being able to offer a unique version of the truth when it comes to purchase order monitoring and supply chain flows daily management. So a platform which is able to having an efficient collaboration between all the different supply chain stakeholders. So I'm talking, of course, about the different teams that are concerned by a purchase order, for example, within a company. So the purchasing and production teams, and also the logistics, and also all the teams. And it's super important to have this in mind. There are a lot of departments in the company which are not in charge directly of the supply chain, but which are very strongly depending on the supply chain information to be efficient in their own perimeter. And accounting and finance and sales and distributions are directly depending to those supply chain operations. So it's super important to make this supply chain flows detailed information available for everyone at the right level of information. And as we mentioned, when we are looking at a typical fashion industry or consumer goods supply chain organization, it is by nature an organization which is relying on external partners. And so it is in the same way a requirement to be able to have this seamless collaboration and unique reference with suppliers, freight forwarders, or quality service providers to secure your supply chain execution.
Yeah. You know, in the next slide, you can see the order of what you're doing, how you track all this way better.
Yes, it's always important to give like more detailed information if we are looking at a typical use case. So basically, I mean, everyone is placing a purchase order in on ERP, and then where the nightmare starts with a lot of Excel spreadsheets, sending emails to suppliers so that they are validating the dates requested for the delivery, the quantities. And so they validate it once, but then they have to update the quantities because something happened on their production line, or they have a raw material sourcing issue or whatever, they need to split. And so the idea of Windall is really to be able to structure and organize all those updates on purchase order structure, so changes in the quantities, deadlines, and so on, and organizing all the execution. So when you are following up and coordinating the deliveries of products, you need to get specific documents at given steps. You need to inform a freight forwarder that the products are going to be delivered. You need to organize a quality inspection and different use cases depending of if you are buying in FOB or Xworks or in DDP Incoterms, for example. So Windall is really organizing all these operational flows from order validation to final warehouse delivery, integrated with both systems to be sure that there is no double entry of the data for the operational teams.
So if I'm understanding correctly, when you place a purchase order, that could be a purchase order leading up to a delivery to your factory, able to manufacture products, but also it could be to your warehouse, distributing to your stores.
Yes, exactly. Clearly, we have a lot of use cases on upstream supply chain with manufacturers and factories, and we also have use cases focusing on the collaboration and the information sharing between corporates, warehouses, and shops or distributors.
And in the lower right part of the slide, you see the carbon impact tracking. So what is that part in this whole story?
Yes, thank you, Martin. It is a very important dimension. A few years ago, when we were talking about supply chain optimization, it was mostly a question of cost and timing. And we have to be clear that now there is a new dimension to take into consideration, which is the environmental impact. And so it is the objective of Windall to give the adequate visibility and data structure to optimize supply chain performance. And so the carbon impact is totally covered by Windall, and we are offering carbon impact automatic calculation based on the detailed execution of merchandise flow. So basically, what are the conditions, the logistics conditions of pre-transit, May-transit, and post-transit based on the volumes and the given logistic conditions. And it is today and more than ever for the fashion industry to be able to have carbon impact per product, even if you are managing your purchase order for groups of products or different categories, to have quick access to these carbon impact figures. It is game changing for supply chain organizations.
Yeah, I can imagine. So it's getting more and more important. I know also KPMG is doing a lot of the sustainability part of the supply chains.
Completely. And what we saw is that those past 5 years, the sustainable subject has become one of the top priority for the CEOs in Europe. And this is because, first of all, yeah, you have the consumers that really want to have more information about the source of their products, about how they are products also. But also it's because we see now that the future depends on how we work on the sustainable topic. And also the second thing that I wanted to add also is that in my clients currently, I really see them struggling day to day with this ERP. That is a very big information system that is not very flexible. A solution as Windall can help them have more agility and also deal in a more easy way with their suppliers.
If you look at this, this flow, it sounds like, just implement Winddle, you're there. But I think it's a bit more complex. So you have different kind of pillars, I guess, to make this work.
Completely. For a company to be efficient in terms of costs, of timing, and of sustainable concern, the operations and supply chain have to rely on 4 pillars. The first one is to control the internal processes and to make the most of the data in order to improve those processes. The second one is to use the data to reduce uncertainty and to have visibility on production equipment, on logistics, on transported products, and on the whole flow, actually. The third one is to be able to secure the partners' relationship in order to secure your supply. By partners relationship, I can think of suppliers, but I can also think of 3PL and carriers. And the fourth one about agility and flexibility is to rely on those 3 first pillars to make scenarios and to be able to take faster decision when a crisis occurs.
And of course, you have different kind of KPIs like timing, cost, and sustainability. We take this framework of 4 layers for the next half an hour to explain what you're actually doing. So maybe, and I think that Emilia can explain this better, but Safa, you kick in when you want to. Emilia, can you explain how to deal with the process in the data?
Yes, I mean the first important pillar is clearly to have a structured and accessible and data which is analyzable. Most organizations have the impression they have it with the IT and process scheme that we've presented before. No. Excel is not structuring the data. So when we are talking about structuring, it's not having columns and lines. It's having data which has a specific meaning from a business perspective. And so it is super important to give a business frame to be able to analyze and leverage your supply chain data. So maybe Safa, you have more insight to share
Yeah.
how important is it to have written process and strong data quality to
Yeah.
manage all this.
Yes, let me just give some context first. The supply chain processes that have been most impacted by those current crises are the planning and the scheduling ones. Why is that? It's because they have a lot of interaction with internal, as we saw earlier, with internal functions, but also with with the suppliers, with the carriers, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So this is because these functions have been impacted, that they need to be more structured and to structure their processes. One of the key process that we can think of is the integrated business planning, that helps to enable improving the planning accuracy and the operational and financial performance. This kind of process can align the business strategy with the resources allocation, with the supply chain and the sales, and it can make everyone inside the company, within the company, talk with each other. But in order to do that, and I'm coming to the data now, they have to have the right data to use, and the structured data to talk about.
And if you look at the in the lower level, you see data on the SKU level.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have this kind of data available in the companies you are approaching, Emilia?
It is our objective to help them on this topic. Clearly, the game now for a supply chain department and direction is to be able to, at any moment of their process, to know where are the products in which quantity, and where are we standing compared to what was planned initially. And honestly, a few organizations are able to have this level of information, and it is super important to be able to navigate from one level of data to the other, and to rely on synchronized data. When you have, for example, when we are talking about transportation management, if you are only using a transportation traditional management system, you will be able to see, okay, my container will be delayed. That's super important information. But the next question is, what do I have in this container, and how does it impact my business? And so it's why it's super important to know exactly what instantly, okay, I have this container reference, what are the purchase order, what are the products, and what is potentially the commercial offer related to those delivered products. And so this is what we are talking about when we are mentioning the importance to be able to go from the SKU level to shipment or more macro data granularity within the same system.
You see the flow of what you're mentioning, how you relate to all these kind of aspects, I would say.
Yeah, and so there is this important data structuration. It is also important to combine it with important process structuration. Be clear about who is supposed to do what and when. And most of the organization are not really clear about this plan and action structure, and it's really helping them to analyze and optimize their supply chain process. And once again, you can see an example of a KPI which are available in Windall related to the carbon impact per product category, per freight type. It is something that you can generate instantly when you are relying, when your supply chain operational organization is relying on a end-to-end and well-structured system. Otherwise, you need an intern to work for several days, and so clearly you are lacking agility.
We have conducted a survey with the supply chain managers, and the conclusion of that is that they spend an average of 2 days a week just working on Excel sheets and finding the right data on the right time. So this is a way to reduce this time in order to make them take more decision and fastest decision actually.
And Safa, and if we go to the next pillar, about the operational visibility and anticipation, how do you make this work?
The digitalization of the processes has not been seen as a priority before COVID. But because of the volatility of the demand and also the rapid changes of this unstable environment, it's became the top first priority. And now what we can say about that is that the end-to-end visibility through processes helps anticipate and helps having more visibility on your work. For example, I have some clients that now has to commit with their supplier 6 months in advance in order to have their products. But in order to do that, they also have to have the right information to know how many products they will order to their supplier.
All right, and you see a statement about Lacoste. Is it a customer of yours, Emilia, or from Safa?
Yes, we are actually both in discussion with Lacoste, and yes, we did present this quote. It's quite reflecting the situation. We are talking about being more agile and being more resilient, and in this particular use case of how can I be able to better secure transport capacities, it is a question of being able to better coordinate your suppliers with your freight forwarders. And so if you are not considering your supply chain from one end to the other, and if you are still considering that you need to organize supplier relationship on one side and on the other side your transportation organization, you will always have this information gap when it comes to give visibility on the inbound flows for the freight forwarders, which is key to make them able to secure capacities and to offer the best service that you are looking for. So it's really everyone is talking about end-to-end visibility. It's really important to understand that it's a question of cross teams and cross partners, efficient collaboration and efficient coordination. So being able to share the right information in real time and be sure that every stakeholder who needs to have this information to organize his part of the job has it on a very easy way. And so as a complement, it's also a question of business alerts and intelligence, because all those stakeholders are managing, as we mentioned it before, high volume of information. And so you really need to be sure that there are specific alert-based system when things are not going to happen as it was in order to increase and improve your ability to react and manage supply chain issues and limit their impacts on your supply chain. And so increasing the visibility horizon that each stakeholder has on what's happening before and after its own perimeter is really, really important to be, and once again, to be agile and resilient on your supply chain.
If you look at this dashboard, you see a lot of delayed deliveries, and the good thing is now you have it visual, and everybody concerned can mention it. The question would be, can you act upon it? Is there something to do with it?
Can you? Sorry, I didn't get your last
Yeah, no,
question.
the nice thing about this overview, you have your alerts, but now, as everybody know in the supply chain, there are alerts and congestions all over. Now it's a question what to do with all these
Yes.
delayed
So
deliveries.
yes, so this is the point. You can dig into the data and see, okay, we are delayed, so and act. Okay, we have to find a solution. Maybe we can ship a part of the production into another. I mean, limit and reduce the quantities, but secure the quantities, because I know that there is one important business part which is linked to this quantity. So it's important to have all the details and be able to split, to inform. It's basic, but when your sales department is informed of a delay when it was supposed to be delivered,
Hmm.
it's super impacting, and they have very limited ability to manage the situation. While when they have the same information 2 weeks ago, they will be able to find solutions to mitigate
Yep.
the risks and the impacts.
Yeah, actually, the anticipation helps mitigate a risk. And just to give you a view of what the best-in-class do in terms of anticipation,
Hmm.
they prepare some mitigation plans based on the type of the risk. For example, if I lose a supplier, or if I lose a container, sorry, during the transportation, I have different types of plans that I can put in place in order to reduce the impact of what happens. And this mitigation plan has to be prepared in advance. But then, once the risk happen, the problem, the crisis happen,
Hmm.
now you have to think fast and to take action as fast as possible. And this is why a tool that gives you the most detailed view can help you take the action as fast as possible.
Okay. Now you have 3 weeks vision in advance compared to competition or compared to the old situation. And another thing is the third layer you mentioned, Safa, is a secure partner relationship. So that's very more important nowadays. Can you
Yeah.
explain a bit more?
Yeah, of course. Depending of the type of product that you buy from your supplier, and also the quantity that you buy from a supplier or from a partner, you will have an impact on them. So I think it's important to identify as a company who are the strategic supplier in order to commit with them and to make with them long-term partnership. You can, for example, use a Qualtrics matrix, which can help you find what are the product that you use the most, and the supplier that you talk with the most, and the spend that you do with them.
Mhm.
And once you do that, I think to secure the strategic supplier relationship, you have to implement with them a platform where you can share easily the day-to-day information. What kind of order I have passed, when will my order come, which order is more priority than another one, and all those information can help you also build a more secure relationship with those key suppliers.
I have a question from the audience relating to this. Most suppliers are resistant to share information about production capacities, capabilities, yields, etc. This is particularly the case in defense contracts, contractors, subcontractors, and suppliers where they protect IP.
So there are clearly question of specificities in given fields, but it's super interesting to see first that this belief that the suppliers don't want to share information is from my point of view a wrong belief. Okay, because I mean I will not be it's clear that there are some information that business partners don't want to share easily. And I think that it's not the objective. The objective is to share in an intelligent way what would be a benefit for both parties, and we with Windall, we have every day this question. Okay, super interesting, but how do I do to onboard and to yes, to onboard my suppliers and my subcontractors in this collaborative process and projects? Have in mind that they are facing exactly the same international and supply chain context. I mean, they are also looking for stability within this unpredictable environment. And so saying, okay, because we were mentioning first the raw materials availabilities or things like this. If they are not able to secure business, it will be super complicated for them also. So it's a question of finding the right level. We are not talking about sharing everything in a full transparent mode. We are talking about finding the right agreements where everyone is working in a win-win approach.
Yeah, and we have to remember that Professor Hao Lee from Stanford already said 10, 50 years ago, the only way to prevent the bullwhip is share information in the supply chain instantly. So basically, that's what Windall providing. If you are providing data about deliveries instantly from your OEM to your first part supplier and second part, etc., that's the only way to prevent the bullwhip happening. So on that kind of level, you can you know share this kind of information, I would say.
And just to complete, I think that relationship management is a very complex topic, and it depends on the kind of relation that they have with their supplier. But what can I say about this is that the more you share with them, the more they're able also to open up and to share with you the information that you need.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's important not to underestimate the message that one organization is giving to its suppliers when it's initiating a collaborative platform project, and when you are talking to your suppliers, presenting, okay, we want to move towards in a more collaborative and transparent way of working. It's super important in the relationship, in the and we have feedback from our clients that are confirming that it's changing in terms of ability to negotiate prices and so on. So it has an effect, really important effect on the relationship in a whole.
Yeah, and it's quite logical because companies' disorganization impact directly the suppliers.
Yes, clearly. I mean, they are also facing productive issues, and I mean, receiving tons of reminders per email on a daily basis
from
is
different
clear,
person,
yes,
etc.
it is clearly not what they are looking for.
No.
So they are, once again, they are much more open to making this a process and collaborative way of working. They are open to evolution and having more user-friendly and data-driven process.
And a few years ago, it was a matter of not companies competing together, but supply chains are competing together. And now, in the world of scarcity, not only supply chains are competing against each other, but whole ecosystems are competing against each other because of the scarcity of the same kind of material you're using for, say, a PlayStation 5 against automotive using the same kind of material. So that's you need to collaborate in a value chain in order to win the whole business in this uncertain world. Emilia, getting to the final phase of this four key pillars.
Mhm.
about the agility and flexibility. How do you manage to get this agility and flexibility?
It's we were talking about securing strategic suppliers
Hmm.
and partners, and I think that the other part of the unpredictable and very unstable environment supply chains have to face, it's also that they have to be organized to seize new opportunities. Okay, when we are talking about sourcing or talking about transport management, they need to be able to work with a new supplier if there is an interesting opportunity on another geography or whatever. They need to be able to place products with freight forwarders with which they don't have an annual contract or things like this. And so that to be able to do this, that means to have standard and harmonized process and a platform which is compatible to this spot collaboration mode, you know.
Hmm.
And so yeah, you need to choose user-friendly solutions which are highly adaptable, flexible, because you can't consider that your supply chain has um, fixed scheme or process organization, and everyone needs to react and change and yeah, seize the opportunity where they are.
Mm.
But yes, yeah, go ahead.
Just to give an example, in the cosmetic industry, one of my clients has set up a central team to monitor all the raw material and to identify in advance which one has the risk to be in crisis and in shortage. And when they have done that, they relied on data in order to identify those raw materials and to share the information with their supplier. And when the supplier is not collaborative, they have to go and look faster for a new supplier and to collaborate with it in order to make some stock or to deal with the crisis with their various factories.
Yeah, yeah. I know that the onboarding of new suppliers or new carriers or 3PL companies is paramount.
Mm.
So before we get into the Q&A, what is your final take, Emilia, on your solution?
It's the classical question is, okay, super nice, but where do I have to start? Our recommendation is you don't need to choose one pillar, and have in mind that they are all mutually depending on each other. And as I think that it has been clear, when you have structured and high quality data, then it's easier to implement end-to-end visibility and to analyze your supplier's performance. And once you have end-to-end visibility, it's easier to secure your partners, and it will bring higher quality and so on. So the idea is just don't waste more time to say, okay, I can see the problem, but I can't address it, because there is no one instant solution that will give a satisfying solution to everything. It's just a question of starting and building the first elements on the path of a more resilient supply chain organization. And just to give our clients insights, we can see when we are implementing Windall, it's a typical project or 4 or 5 months. And so during the implementation phase, our clients are working on their typical plan and action process. And super frequently they are saying, oh, it's super interesting how we haven't been live, we haven't been going live yet with the solution, but it's already super useful to just be clear to what is supposed to be done and how is our process organized. And so really my recommendation would be initiate actions and don't don't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add, I think when you put different people around the table and make them think about how they will use a solution, and specifically a supply chain solution, they think about their processes, and this is how they can also start improving their processes. So a solution is important, and the people that you will have around the table are also very important.
All right. So we're almost out of time. So we done a survey 2 years ago about the investment in supply chain. As you can see, end-to-end supply chain visibility is ranked number 2 or number 1, depending if you look at it. But what we see right now quite clearly, it's more getting more specific, like upstream visibility to your suppliers and communicating your orders. That's getting more paramount. We're getting to the Q&A, but really it's 5 o'clock. So we have already answered a few questions. There's another question about multi-tier collaboration. I would suggest to ask this question in the lounge. So basically, as of now, after this, the 3 of us will go into the lounge, and we'll be sitting at table 1. Sorry. So you can talk to us, to Safa and Emilia, directly right after this. So we'll be there in the lounge. There's more to read. So we have our IT supplement map where you can choose all kind of solutions in all kind of different areas, and warehouse management, supply chain visibility, and you name it. That's the IT supplement map. And in the middle, Windall and supply chain movement have created a checklist about purchasing order tracking. And KPMG has an interesting supply chain predictor. So that is also interesting to watch. With this, I would like to thank Emilia for
Thank you, Martin.
and Safa, also thank you for your explanation. And with the audience, I would like to thank you for listening and for participating, for asking the questions. So I hope you liked it. This presentation will be made available within 48 hours as a PDF and also as a recording. So thank you, and I hope to see you next time, or I hope to see you next in the lounge. Then we can talk a bit further with the 3 of us. Thank you for now,
Yes.
and see you in the launch, or see you next time.
Thank you very much, and see